Have you ever paused amidst the noise of life and wondered, am I walking in God's favor? It's a question that often lingers in our hearts, especially during moments of doubt or uncertainty. Favor and grace, these are terms we hear so often, yet they carry a profound mystery. What does it mean to be favored by God? How do we recognize His grace in our lives? Imagine for a moment that your life is a tapestry. Each thread, your joys, struggles, triumphs, and even your tears is being woven together by the hands of the divine. While we often notice the imperfections and knots on the underside, there is a masterpiece taking shape above. It's in these unseen moments, these quiet blessings, that God's favor and grace often reveal themselves. Walking in God's favor isn't about material wealth or an easy life. It's deeper, richer, and far more enduring. It's about experiencing His presence, His guidance, and His unmerited blessings in ways that often defy explanation. Yet these signs are not always obvious. They require a heart that is attuned to the whispers of God and eyes that can see beyond the surface of our circumstances. If you've ever wondered whether you're walking in His favor, let me assure you that it's not about perfection or earning His blessings. Favor is a reflection of God's love, His desire to draw you closer, and His commitment to work through your life for His purpose. Grace, on the other hand, is the unearned gift that carries you through moments when you feel least deserving. Stay with me as we uncover 7 signs that you're walking in God's favor and grace. These signs are not grand or flashy. They often come quietly in moments that touch the deepest part of your soul. But when you learn to recognize them, they serve as reminders that you are not alone, that your journey is guided, and that your life is held in the hands of the Creator. These signs are not markers of perfection, but evidence of God's love, presence, and purpose in your life. As you reflect on them, may you recognize that His favor and grace are not distant or unattainable. They are with you now, guiding you every step of the way. You experience unexplainable peace amidst chaos. There is something extraordinary about the kind of peace that defies explanation. It's not the kind of peace that comes from everything going your way or from a life free of challenges. No, this is a peace that shows up in the midst of chaos, in the eye of the storm, when logic would dictate that you should be overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid. This peace, unshaken by circumstances, is one of the clearest signs that you are walking in God's favor and grace. This unexplainable peace is not of this world. It is rooted in the divine. It is a gift that only God can give, a reflection of His presence in your life. When you experience this peace, it's not because your problems have vanished or the storms have ceased. It's because you have an anchor that holds you steady, a calm that comes from knowing that God is in control, even when everything around you feels uncertain. Consider the moments in your life when everything seemed to be falling apart, when the weight of responsibilities, setbacks, or unforeseen challenges bore down on you. Perhaps you faced a crisis that seemed insurmountable, a situation where no solution was in sight. And yet, amidst the turmoil, there was a stillness within you, a quiet assurance that whispered, "I am with you. Do not be afraid." That is the peace that comes from God. It is not passive or fleeting. It is a powerful, active force that sustains you in ways you cannot fully understand. This peace often feels like a paradox. You may still feel the sting of disappointment, the weight of uncertainty, or the strain of the battle, yet your heart remains at rest. This is the kind of peace that allowed David to write, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, even as he walked through the valley of the shadow of death." It's the peace that steadied Paul when he declared, "I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, while imprisoned for his faith." This peace is not rooted in external circumstances. It is rooted in the unchanging nature of God. Walking in this peace is not about denying the reality of your challenges. It's about refusing to let those challenges define your perspective. When you're walking in God's favor and grace, you begin to see your circumstances through the lens of His promises rather than through the limits of your own understanding. You trust that even the chaos is not beyond His control, and that trust becomes the foundation of your peace. This unexplainable peace also serves as a testimony to those around you. In a world that is so often marked by anxiety, fear, and uncertainty, the peace of God stands out. People may look at your life, see the storms you're navigating, and wonder how you remain so calm, so steady, so full of hope. This peace becomes a light, pointing them not to your own strength, but to the one who sustains you. It is a reflection of His favor in your life, a sign that His grace is carrying you through. It's important to recognize that this peace doesn't mean you'll never feel fear or doubt. You're human after all, but when you're walking in God's favor, those feelings don't have the final say. His peace steps in to quiet the noise, to remind you that you are not alone, and to give you the strength to keep moving forward. It's a reminder that His presence is greater than any problem you face. This peace often manifests in practical ways. You might notice that your thoughts become clearer, your decisions less reactive, and your actions more intentional. You find yourself responding to challenges with patience rather than panic, with faith rather than fear. This is not a coincidence, it is evidence of God's favor at work in your life, empowering you to rise above the chaos and navigate it with grace. Perhaps you've experienced this peace in moments when you least expected it. Maybe it was during a season of grief when you felt a surprising sense of comfort amidst the pain. Or perhaps it was in a time of uncertainty when you felt a deep conviction that everything would somehow work out, even though you couldn't see how. These moments are not random, they are signs of God's hand on your life, His assurance that He is with you and for you. The unexplainable peace of God is also deeply personal. It doesn't come from comparing your journey to others or measuring your progress against the world's standards. It comes from an intimate relationship with Him, from spending time in His presence, soaking in His word, and trusting in His promises. When you cultivate this relationship, His peace becomes a natural byproduct. It flows into your life, filling the spaces where fear and doubt once resided. This peace is both a gift and a responsibility. It's a gift because it is freely given, there is nothing you can do to earn it. It is a responsibility because it calls you to share it with others, to let it overflow into the lives of those around you. When you walk in this peace, you become a vessel of God's favor, spreading His grace to a world that desperately needs it. This peace also reminds you that your battles are not yours to fight alone. When you're walking in God's favor, you are not left to face the storms of life in your own strength. His peace is a reminder that He is fighting for you, that He is working behind the scenes, and that His plans for you are good. It's a declaration that no matter how chaotic the world may seem, His sovereignty is unshaken. When this peace takes root in your heart, it changes everything. It changes how you see your challenges, how you approach your future, and how you interact with the people around you. It becomes a source of strength, a wellspring of hope, and a constant reminder that you are walking in the favor and grace of a God who loves you more than you can imagine. Doors open where you least expect them. One of the clearest signs that you are walking in God's favor and grace is when doors begin to open in ways that defy explanation. These aren't doors you forced open through your own effort or manipulation. They are doors that seem to open effortlessly, guiding you to opportunities, relationships, or solutions that align perfectly with your needs and God's plans for your life. These moments are not coincidences, they are divine orchestration, reminders that God is actively involved in the details of your journey. These open doors often catch you off guard. You may be struggling with a closed door, a rejection, a missed opportunity, or a seemingly insurmountable obstacle, and suddenly, out of nowhere, another door appears. This new door might not look like what you expected or planned for, but it offers exactly what you need. It's God's way of showing you that His plans are higher than yours, and His timing is perfect. Walking in God's favor doesn't mean every door will open. In fact, some doors must remain closed to protect you from paths that don't align with His purpose. But when the right door opens, there's a peace and clarity that accompanies it, a sense that this is where you are meant to go. These moments are filled with assurance, even if the path beyond the door feels uncertain or requires faith to navigate. Consider how often in Scripture we see God opening unexpected doors for His people. Joseph, sold into slavery and imprisoned, walked through doors that eventually led him to become a ruler in Egypt. Esther, an orphan girl, was brought to the palace and given the opportunity to save her people. Paul, imprisoned for his faith, found opportunities to spread the gospel even in chains. These doors didn't appear by chance. They were divinely timed openings that aligned with God's greater plan. In your own life, these open doors might take many forms. Perhaps it's a job opportunity that arrives just when you need it most, or a relationship that brings growth and encouragement. Maybe it's an idea or inspiration that propels you forward in your calling. These doors often come when you least expect them, reminding you that God is working behind the scenes, weaving together details you couldn't possibly orchestrate on your own. Sometimes these doors open in ways that challenge your faith. They might require you to step out of your comfort zone, to leave behind the familiar, or to take a risk that feels daunting. But that's the beauty of walking in God's favor. He doesn't just open the door. He equips you to walk through it. He provides the courage, resources, and wisdom you need to take the next step, assuring you that you are not alone in the journey. These open doors also serve as reminders of God's provision. When one door closes, it's easy to feel discouraged or forgotten, but the opening of another door reveals His care and attention to your needs. It's a reminder that His plans for you are good, even if they don't always align with your initial expectations. The door that opens may not be the one you prayed for, but it will always lead to something better than you imagined. Sometimes these doors are subtle, a conversation that sparks a new idea, a chance meeting that leads to an opportunity, or a moment of clarity that shifts your perspective. Other times they are dramatic and unmistakable, like an opportunity that aligns perfectly with your deepest prayers and dreams. In either case, these doors are signs of God's favor, evidence that He is guiding your steps and preparing the way for you. These doors often come with confirmation. You may notice a series of events that align perfectly, a sense of peace that accompanies your decision, or encouragement from others that affirms the path you're taking. This confirmation isn't always immediate, but when it comes, it reinforces your faith and gives you the confidence to move forward. It's God's way of saying, "This is the path I've prepared for you, trust me and walk." Open doors also have a way of teaching us trust. When you're presented with an opportunity that feels beyond your capabilities or understanding, it's an invitation to rely on God rather than your own strength. It's a reminder that His favor is not about what you can achieve, but about what He can do through you. These moments stretch your faith, deepening your relationship with Him and preparing you for even greater doors to come. These doors are not just for your benefit, they are part of a greater purpose. When God opens a door for you, it's often so that you can bless others, share His love, or fulfill a calling that impacts the world around you. These moments remind you that walking in His favor is not about personal gain. It's about aligning your life with His plan and allowing His grace to flow through you. Sometimes the door that opens is not about entering a new opportunity, but about exiting a situation that no longer serves your growth or purpose. God's favor doesn't always lead to more, it often leads to better. He closes the wrong doors and opens the right ones, guiding you to places where you can thrive and fulfill your calling. If you've experienced open doors that seem perfectly timed or beyond what you could have imagined, recognize them for what they are, signs of God's favor and grace. They are reminders that He sees you, knows your needs, and is actively guiding your steps. These doors are not just opportunities, they are invitations to trust Him more deeply, to step into His plans with confidence, and to walk in the purpose for which you were created. You encounter divine protection in unexpected ways. One of the most reassuring signs that you are walking in God's favor and grace is experiencing His protection in ways that defy explanation. This divine protection doesn't always come with dramatic fanfare or obvious miracles. Instead, it often works quietly, behind the scenes, shielding you from harm you didn't even know existed. When you pause to reflect, you realize that certain setbacks were blessings in disguise, that delays were divine interventions, and that closed doors were not rejections but acts of grace saving you from paths that were never meant for you. Walking in God's favor doesn't mean you won't face challenges or difficulties. It means that even in the midst of life's uncertainties, you are surrounded by His care. There are moments when you narrowly avoid danger, make a choice that spares you from disaster, or experience a coincidence that keeps you safe. These moments are not random, they are evidence of God's protective hand on your life. His favor doesn't just guide your steps, it also guards your path. This protection often manifests in ways that are easy to overlook. Perhaps you miss an appointment only to find out later that avoiding that situation saved you from harm. Maybe a plan you worked so hard for suddenly falls apart, leaving you frustrated until you realize that the outcome could have led to something far worse. Divine protection isn't always about what happens to you, it's often about what doesn't happen. It's about the unseen dangers you are spared from because God is watching over you. Consider how many times in Scripture God provided protection in ways that seemed unexpected or unconventional. When the Israelites were trapped between the Red Sea and Pharaoh's army, God didn't remove the obstacle. He parted the sea, creating a path of escape. When Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, God didn't prevent the trial but closed the mouths of the lions, keeping him safe. These stories remind us that divine protection doesn't mean the absence of challenges, it means that God's favor will sustain you through them, ensuring that no harm can derail His plan for your life. In your own life, divine protection might look like a difficult breakup that, though painful, ultimately saves you from a toxic relationship. It might appear as a job opportunity you didn't get, only to find a better one waiting around the corner. It could be as simple as an unexplained delay that keeps you safe from an accident, or as profound as a medical scare that brings hidden issues to light just in time for healing. These moments are not coincidences, they are glimpses of God's grace at work. This protection also extends to the battles you cannot see. Spiritual warfare is real, and walking in God's favor means that you are shielded from forces that seek to disrupt your peace, joy, and purpose. The enemy's plans to discourage or destroy you are no match for God's hand of protection. Even when you feel vulnerable, His grace is a fortress around you, guarding your heart and mind in ways that you may not fully understand until much later. Divine protection often involves timing. Sometimes, the delays and detours in your life are God's way of keeping you safe until the right moment. You might be eager to move forward to pursue a dream or seize an opportunity, but God knows what lies ahead. His timing is not about withholding blessings, it's about ensuring that you receive them when you are ready and when they will bring the greatest good. Trusting this timing is one of the most profound ways to embrace His favor and grace. This protection doesn't mean you won't face pain or disappointment. Instead, it means that even in those moments, God is working for your ultimate good. What the enemy intends for harm, God uses for your benefit. The struggles you face are not signs of abandonment, but opportunities for Him to show His faithfulness. Every trial you endure with His protection becomes a testimony to His goodness and power. Divine protection also teaches us to trust. When you recognize how God has shielded you in the past, it strengthens your faith for the future. You begin to see the patterns of His care, how every setback was a setup for something greater, and how every delay was an act of love. This trust becomes the foundation for walking boldly in His purpose, knowing that no matter what lies ahead, He has already gone before you. There is a profound sense of peace that comes with this awareness. When you know that God is protecting you, even when you cannot see it, you can face challenges with confidence. You understand that nothing can touch your life without His permission, and that His plans for you are greater than any obstacle you may encounter. This peace doesn't eliminate fear entirely, but it quiets it, reminding you that you are not walking this journey alone. Divine protection is a reminder of your value to God. He doesn't protect you out of obligation, He does it because He loves you deeply and intimately. His grace is not a blanket favor, it is personal and intentional, tailored to your unique journey. When you experience His protection, it's a reflection of how much He cares for you, how closely He watches over you, and how committed He is to seeing His plans for your life fulfilled. If you've ever looked back on your life and realized how many dangers you've been spared, how many paths were redirected for your good, and how many times you were shielded without even knowing it, take heart. These moments are not mere luck or chance, they are evidence of God's favor and grace. They are reminders that you are loved, seen, and protected by the one who holds the universe in his hands. His protection is not just a sign of his favor, it is a testament to his relentless care for you. You find strength beyond your own. One of the most powerful signs that you're walking in God's favor and grace is the unexplainable strength that rises within you when you need it most. This strength isn't something you conjure up on your own, it comes from a source far greater than you. It's the kind of strength that carries you through trials you thought would break you. The kind that helps you stand when everything in you feels like falling. It's not born of willpower or determination, it's divine, a reflection of God's grace actively working in your life. There are moments in life when we all feel overwhelmed, times when the weight of responsibilities, unexpected hardships, or personal loss feels unbearable. It's in these moments that God's grace becomes most evident. When you reach the end of your own ability, that's where his strength begins. It's as if he steps into the gap, providing what you cannot, reminding you that his power is made perfect in your weakness. This strength isn't just about physical endurance. It's a deep, spiritual resilience that touches every part of your being. It gives you the courage to face challenges, the patience to endure trials, and the faith to keep going even when the path ahead is unclear. It's the quiet confidence that whispers, "You're not alone. I am with you." And while the struggle may still be present, this strength allows you to rise above it, to keep moving forward despite the odds. Consider the times in Scripture when individuals found themselves in seemingly impossible situations, yet discovered a strength that wasn't their own. Think of Moses, standing before Pharaoh, unsure of his abilities but strengthened by God's promise to be with him. Think of David, a young shepherd boy stepping onto the battlefield to face a giant with nothing but a slingshot and unwavering faith. Think of Paul, enduring imprisonment and persecution, yet declaring, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." These moments of supernatural strength were not about their capabilities, they were about God's favor resting upon them. In your own life, this strength often shows up when you least expect it. Perhaps you've faced a difficult season, a loss, a setback, or an overwhelming challenge, and found yourself somehow able to endure, even when you didn't think you could. Maybe it was the strength to forgive someone who hurt you deeply, to let go of a burden you've been carrying, or to take a step of faith into the unknown. These moments are not a coincidence, they are evidence of God's grace sustaining you. This divine strength also equips you for the journey ahead. When God has a bigger plan for your life, he knows that the path won't always be easy. There will be mountains to climb, battles to fight, and valleys to walk through, but his grace ensures that you are never walking alone. He doesn't remove the challenges, but he gives you the strength to face them. And with each challenge you overcome, you become stronger, not just in body or mind, but in spirit. What's remarkable about this strength is how it often surprises us. You may look back on a difficult season and wonder how you made it through. The truth is, it wasn't just you. God's hand was guiding you, lifting you, and carrying you when you couldn't carry yourself. This strength doesn't always feel dramatic or overwhelming in the moment. Sometimes it's as subtle as the ability to take one more step, to breathe one more breath, or to whisper one more prayer. This divine strength also transforms how you see yourself. When you experience the power of God working through you, it reshapes your understanding of what you're capable of. It reminds you that your limitations are not obstacles to Him, they are opportunities for His power to shine. You begin to see yourself not as weak or inadequate, but as a vessel through which His strength flows. And this understanding fills you with confidence not in your own abilities, but in His. This strength is also contagious. When others see you walking through difficulties with grace, they are drawn to the source of your resilience. Your life becomes a testimony to the power of God's favor, a beacon of hope for those who are struggling. People may ask how you're able to keep going, and your answer points them not to yourself, but to Him. This is one of the ways God uses your journey to bless others, showing them that His grace is available to them. Divine strength also deepens your relationship with God. When you rely on Him in your moments of weakness, you come to know Him in a more intimate way. You begin to see Him not just as a distant figure, but as a present help, a loving Father who walks with you through every trial. This reliance builds trust, and that trust becomes the foundation of your faith. It's a reminder that no matter how strong or weak you feel, His grace is always sufficient. This strength is not just for survival, it's for growth. Every time you rely on God's strength, you're being prepared for the next step in your journey. The challenges you face today are shaping you for the opportunities of tomorrow. They're building your character, refining your faith, and preparing you to step into the purpose God has for you. And as you grow, you begin to see that His strength is not just a safety net. It's a launching pad for greater things. Finally, this strength is a gift, a constant reminder of God's favor and grace in your life. It's not something you have to earn or deserve, it's given freely, out of His love for you. And while you may not always feel strong, His strength is always there, ready to carry you when you need it most. It's a sign that you are not walking this journey alone, that His hand is upon you, and that His power is working through you in ways you may not yet fully understand. Your needs are met in unexpected ways. One of the most beautiful signs of walking in God's favor and grace is when your needs are met in ways you could never have predicted. This is not about material excess or luxury, but about the quiet and faithful provision that shows up just when you need it most. It's as if, in the moments when you are at the end of your resources, be they financial, emotional, or spiritual, God steps in and reminds you that He is your provider. This kind of provision often comes unexpectedly through avenues you would never have considered. Perhaps you receive support from a friend you hadn't spoken to in years, or a financial blessing appears just in time to cover an unforeseen expense. It may be as simple as a word of encouragement from a stranger, or as profound as a life-changing opportunity that seems to come out of nowhere. These moments are not coincidences, they are divine interventions, signs of a God who sees you, knows your needs, and cares deeply for you. Throughout Scripture, we see countless examples of God meeting the needs of His people in miraculous ways. Think of the Israelites wandering in the wilderness, where God provided manna from heaven each morning to sustain them. Consider Elijah, who, during a severe drought, was fed by ravens sent by God. Or remember the multitude fed by Jesus with just 5 loaves and 2 fish, where what seemed impossibly small was made more than enough. These stories remind us that God's provision is not limited by circumstances. He works through what we have, multiplying it, and often brings what we need from the most unexpected places. In your own life, these moments of provision often come when you least expect them. Perhaps you've been in a season of waiting, praying for an answer, and just as you're beginning to doubt, the solution appears. Maybe you've been carrying a heavy emotional burden, and a conversation or moment of clarity lightens your load. These instances are more than just good timing, they are evidence of God's favor at work, ensuring that you lack nothing essential for your journey. What's remarkable about this provision is how it often aligns perfectly with your needs, even when you don't realize what those needs are. You might be praying for one thing, only to find that God provides something entirely different but ultimately better. This is because His understanding of your needs goes far beyond your own. He doesn't just see the surface, He sees your heart, your future, and the purpose He's preparing you for. His provision isn't just about meeting immediate needs, it's about aligning your life with His greater plan. This unexpected provision is also a reminder of God's faithfulness. When He meets your needs in ways you couldn't have anticipated, it strengthens your trust in Him. It's a reminder that He is always working on your behalf, even when you can't see it. These moments build your faith, encouraging you to rely on Him more deeply and to let go of the fear that so often accompanies uncertainty. Divine provision often teaches us to recognize blessings in forms we might have overlooked. Sometimes it's not the big, dramatic answers that show God's favor, but the small, everyday moments of grace. It might be the kindness of a stranger, the strength to get through a challenging day, or the inspiration to take the next step in faith. These are the threads of God's provision woven into the fabric of your life, subtle yet profoundly impactful. What's even more humbling is how God often uses others as instruments of His provision. He places people in your path, friends, family, even strangers who become channels of His grace. Perhaps it's a mentor who offers guidance, a neighbor who lends a helping hand, or a friend who shows up with exactly what you need. These moments remind us that God works through relationships, using the community around us to bless and sustain us. This provision also challenges us to adopt a posture of gratitude. When your needs are met unexpectedly, it's easy to take it for granted or chalk it up to coincidence. But when you recognize these moments as evidence of God's hand at work, it transforms how you see your circumstances. Gratitude shifts your perspective from scarcity to abundance, reminding you that God is a God of more than enough. It opens your heart to receive even more of His blessings, not out of entitlement but out of trust and thanksgiving. The unexpected provision also reveals the beauty of God's timing. There's a divine precision to how and when He meets your needs. It might not always align with your schedule, but it's always perfect. When you look back on your life, you can often see how those moments of provision came at exactly the right time, even if you didn't understand it then. This timing is a reminder that God's plans are always working for your good, even in the waiting. These moments of divine provision also point to God's character. They remind you that He is not distant or indifferent. He is deeply involved in the details of your life. He cares not just about your spiritual well-being, but about every aspect of who you are. His provision is a reflection of His love, His desire to see you thrive, and His commitment to walking with you every step of the way. Finally, when your needs are met in unexpected ways, it's a call to extend that grace to others. Just as God uses people to bless you, He invites you to be a channel of His provision for someone else. These moments remind you that the blessings you receive are not just for your benefit, they are part of a larger story, one that calls you to share His love and grace with the world. If you've ever experienced a need being met in an unexpected way, take a moment to reflect on it. Recognize it for what it truly is, a sign of God's favor and grace. These moments are not just answers to prayers, they are reminders that you are seen, cared for, and deeply loved by a God who never forgets you. His provision is not a coincidence, it is His promise. You feel a deepening connection with God. One of the most profound signs that you are walking in God's favor and grace is an unmistakable deepening of your connection with Him. This isn't just about going through the motions of faith or checking off spiritual boxes. It's about an intimate, transformative relationship that grows stronger and more meaningful with each passing day. It's as though the veil between you and God becomes thinner, and you begin to experience His presence in ways that are tangible, personal, and life-changing. This deepening connection doesn't happen by accident. It's a result of God's grace drawing you closer to Him, inviting you to know Him more deeply and trust Him more fully. You may find yourself yearning for His presence in ways you haven't before, a hunger for His word, a desire to spend more time in prayer, or an unexplainable longing to worship and praise Him. These desires are not from you alone, they are stirred by the Holy Spirit, a sign that God is actively at work in your heart. As this connection deepens, you begin to notice a shift in how you see the world and your place in it. The things that once consumed your thoughts, worries about the future, concerns about what others think, or the pursuit of material success, start to fade in importance. Instead, you find yourself focused on what truly matters, aligning your life with God's purpose, loving others as He loves you, and seeking His will above all else. This shift isn't forced, it flows naturally from your growing relationship with Him. When you feel this deepening connection with God, it often comes with a sense of peace and clarity. You may not have all the answers to life's questions, but you begin to trust the One who does. You start to see His hand in the details of your life, guiding your steps, opening doors and providing in ways that leave no doubt of His presence. This clarity isn't about understanding every part of His plan, it's about trusting that His plan is good, even when you can't see the full. This connection also brings a sense of joy that goes beyond circumstances. It's a joy that isn't dependent on everything going right, but is rooted in the assurance that you are deeply loved and fully known by the Creator of the universe. This joy becomes a wellspring of strength, carrying you through challenges and reminding you that, no matter what happens, you are never alone. As your relationship with God deepens, you begin to hear His voice more clearly. This isn't always an audible voice. Often, it's a quiet prompting in your spirit, a verse that speaks directly to your situation, or a sense of peace about a decision you need to make. You start to recognize His guidance in the everyday moments of life, from the big decisions to the seemingly small interactions. This awareness is a gift, a sign that His favor and grace are drawing you closer to Him. This deepening connection also transforms how you pray. Prayer becomes less about presenting a list of requests and more about communion with God, listening as much as speaking, seeking His heart rather than just His hand. You find yourself drawn to pray not just for your own needs, but for others, for the world, and for His will to be done. This shift reflects a growing trust in His sovereignty and a desire to partner with Him in His plans. One of the most beautiful aspects of this connection is how it reshapes your identity. You begin to see yourself not through the lens of your past mistakes or the world's standards, but through the eyes of God. You recognize that you are His child, loved unconditionally, chosen for a purpose, and equipped by His grace. This understanding doesn't just change how you see yourself, it changes how you live. You walk with confidence, not in your own abilities, but in the assurance that He is with you. This connection also brings a deeper understanding of God's character. As you spend time in His Word and in His presence, you come to know Him not just as a distant figure, but as a loving Father, a faithful provider, and a constant friend. You see His mercy in the moments when you fall short, His patience in the times when you struggle to trust, and His power in the ways He works all things for your good. This understanding doesn't just inspire worship, it deepens your faith, giving you the courage to step into the unknown with Him. Another remarkable sign of this connection is the way it overflows into your relationships with others. As you draw closer to God, His love begins to flow through you, impacting the way you interact with those around you. You find yourself more patient, more forgiving, and more compassionate, not because you're trying harder, because His grace is transforming you from the inside out. Your deepening relationship with Him becomes a testimony to others, drawing them toward the same connection you've found. This connection also sustains you in difficult times. When life feels overwhelming or uncertain, it's this relationship with God that becomes your anchor. You lean on His promises, rest in His presence, and find strength in His Word. These moments of reliance deepen your trust in Him, reminding you that His grace is sufficient and His love is unchanging. Finally, this deepening connection with God is a reminder of His favor and grace in your life. It's not something you can earn or achieve, it's a gift, a reflection of His desire to be close to you. It's a sign that He is actively pursuing you, drawing you into a relationship that brings life, joy, and purpose. And as you respond to His invitation, you discover that this connection is not just a part of your life, it's the foundation of it, the source of every blessing and the assurance of every promise He has made. Your life inspires and impacts others. One of the most unmistakable signs that you are walking in God's favor and grace is when your life begins to inspire and impact those around you in profound ways. This influence isn't about fame or recognition. It's about the quiet, consistent way your words, actions, and presence reflect God's love and draw others closer to Him. When God's favor rests upon you, it doesn't just bless your life, it overflows, touching the lives of others in ways you may not even realize. This impact often begins subtly. You might notice that people are drawn to you, seeking your advice, encouragement, or simply your presence during challenging times. They might tell you how much your perspective has helped them, or how your faith has inspired their own. This isn't because you're extraordinary, it's because God's grace is working through you, using your life as a vessel to shine His light in the world. Walking in God's favor means that your life becomes a living testimony of His goodness. Others begin to see the peace you carry, even in the midst of trials. They notice the joy that isn't dependent on circumstances, the strength that seems to defy logic, and the love that flows from you unconditionally. These traits are not the result of your own efforts, they are evidence of His presence in your life. People may not always be able to put it into words, but they are drawn to the reflection of God's character they see in you. Think about the ripple effect of God's grace in Scripture. When Jesus performed miracles or spoke words of life, the impact didn't end with the individual, it spread to entire communities. The woman at the well not only found transformation herself, but also became the catalyst for her village to seek Jesus. Paul's letters, written in chains, have inspired countless generations to deepen their faith. These stories remind us that when God's favor is upon you, it is never just for you, it's for those He places in your path. In your life, this might look like offering encouragement to a friend who is struggling, and that encouragement becomes the spark they need to keep going. It might be living with integrity in your workplace, inspiring colleagues to strive for excellence. It could be sharing your faith through a simple conversation, planting seeds that grow in ways you may never see. These moments are not random, they are divinely orchestrated opportunities for you to reflect His grace. When your life impacts others, it's often because you've been through challenges that have shaped your faith, the trials you've endured, the lessons you've learned, and the ways God has carried you become a source of hope for others. People look at your story and see what is possible with God. They see that His grace is sufficient, that His power is made perfect in weakness, and that His plans are always good. Your life becomes a testament to the fact that God can take even the hardest circumstances and use them for His glory. This influence doesn't require a stage or a platform. Some of the most impactful moments happen in the quiet, everyday interactions that might seem insignificant at the time. A kind word, a listening ear, or a small act of generosity can leave a lasting impression. When you're walking in God's favor, these moments are infused with His grace, making them far more powerful than you realize. As your life begins to inspire others, it also deepens your own faith. Seeing how God uses your story to bless others reminds you of His faithfulness and sovereignty. It reinforces the truth that your life has purpose, and that even the struggles you face are not wasted. This realization strengthens your trust in Him, encouraging you to continue walking in His favor with confidence and humility. Your impact on others is also a reflection of God's love flowing through you. As you draw closer to Him, His love begins to fill your heart to the point where it naturally overflows into your relationships. You find yourself more patient, more compassionate, and more forgiving, not because of your own strength, but because of His grace at work within you. This love becomes a magnet, drawing others to experience the same transformation you have found. When your life impacts others, it often plants seeds that you may never see grow. You may never know the full extent of how your words or actions have changed someone's life, but God does. He uses your obedience, your faithfulness, and your willingness to serve as instruments of His greater plan. This is one of the greatest honors of walking in His favor, knowing that your life is part of a story much bigger than yourself. This kind of influence also comes with responsibility. When you recognize that your life impacts others, it encourages you to live intentionally. It challenges you to align your actions with your faith, to strive for authenticity, and to reflect God's character in all that you do. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect, far from it. It means allowing His grace to shine through your imperfections, showing others that His strength is made perfect in weakness. The impact of your life also extends beyond what you say or do. It's about who you are becoming. When people see the transformation in your character, the way you handle challenges, and the way you love without conditions, they are drawn to the source of that change. Your life becomes a living invitation for others to experience God's favor and grace for themselves. The way your life inspires and impacts others is a reflection of God's plan for you. His favor is not about elevating you for your own sake, it's about using you to lift others, to bring hope to the hopeless, and to point people back to Him. When you walk in His favor, your life becomes a channel through which His love, grace, and power flow into the world, creating a ripple effect that reaches far beyond what you can imagine. As we reflect on these signs, it becomes clear that walking in God's favor and grace is not about living a life free of challenges or hardships. Instead, it's about recognizing the divine fingerprints on every aspect of your journey, His peace in the midst of chaos, the unexpected doors that open, the strength that carries you when your own fails, and the blessings that meet your needs in ways you could never have planned. It's about feeling His protection, deepening your connection with Him, and seeing your life become a beacon of hope and inspiration to those around you. These signs are not coincidences, they are reminders that you are not alone, that your life is guided by a loving Creator who is intimately involved in your every step. They are evidence that His favor rests upon you and His grace is working within you, shaping you for a purpose far greater than you can imagine. Even in the moments when the path ahead feels uncertain, these signs assure you that His hand is upon you, leading you toward His perfect plan. Walking in God's favor and grace doesn't require perfection, it requires faith. It requires trusting Him even when the way is unclear, leaning into His promises when the world feels heavy, and recognizing that His blessings often come in the form of challenges that refine and grow us. Every trial, every triumph, and every quiet moment of His presence is part of the masterpiece He is creating in your life. As we close, let this message be a reminder that you are chosen, loved, and held by the One who knows you fully and loves you deeply. Look for these signs in your life, celebrate them when you see them, and trust that even when you can't, they are still there. God's favor and grace are not distant or unattainable, they are present and active, guiding you each step of the way. Thank you for joining me on this journey of reflection and encouragement. May this message inspire you to walk forward with confidence, knowing that you are living under the care of a God whose love never fails. Keep trusting, keep believing, and keep shining the light of His grace in a world that desperately needs it. Until next time, may His peace, favor, and boundless grace continue to guide your